The Slayer Calls by Janson Davies. Chapter 1. The Warlord of Telvik's Prime. The twin sons of Telvik's Prime bled across the scarred mining plains like dying embers. Astoria Pageant stood atop the slag heap, silhouetted against the molten sky, her flowing blonde hair windswept and streaked with dust and vengeance. Below her, the warlord Grothar Vel twisted in agony, pinned to the ground with the very iron rods he'd once used to cage children. His cries were music. "You'll beg louder before I'm done," Astoria murmured, crouching beside him. Her voice was low, melodic, almost gentle, a cruel contrast to the dagger gleaming in her hand. Nectar, her signature blade, glowed with subtle venom, crafted from the glands of a creature so lethal it had to be bred in vacuum-sealed darkness. She traced the blade along Grothar's armored chest, letting the toxin tease his bloodstream. "Mercy," he choked. "Oh, you want mercy?" She leaned closer, eyes sharp as cut glass. "That's interesting. Did those freighters beg for mercy when you ejected them into the vacuum of space to save fuel?" He sputtered something unintelligible, probably denial or apology, but she drove Nectar home in a single precise motion. His death was not quick. She made sure of that. Astoria stood, wiping the blade clean on his royal cloak, then looked to the shadows where a dozen alien slaves watched in silence. Their skin bore the deep welts of punishment. Their eyes flickered with something strange, hope. "Gather your kin," she said. "You're free." Not a cheer, not a word, just stunned silence. She turned her back on them, but not before pulling a flare from her belt and launching it skyward. It burst in a rain of violet sparks, the symbol of liberation across the outworlds. Within days, every enslaved colony would know, the Slayer has struck again. Astoria didn't smile. Not yet. The galaxy still wore chains, and she intended to break every last one. Chapter 2. The Child of Vornax. The screams echoed through the crystalline tunnels of Vornax 6, a mining moon carved into obsidian by centuries of forced labor. Astoria moved like a shadow through the chaos, efficient, merciless, silent. Her assignment was simple: eliminate Overseer Creel and send a message to any other alien sympathizers. The Erasure Syndicate didn't tolerate insubordination, but the mission was already off script. Astoria crouched above a narrow shaft, watching a terrified boy scramble through the dark. The child had amethyst skin and delicate horns, a member of the peaceful Halari race known for their sensitivity to sound and emotion. He looked no older than 6. "Please," he cried, "don't hurt Mama." Her grip tightened on Nectar. This wasn't the first child she'd seen broken by cruelty, but it was the first one that made her hesitate. Footsteps. Creel's squad, 4 Syndicate enforcers, closed in, scanners sweeping the tunnels. One of them spotted the child. "There," a voice barked. "Kill it." Orders were clear. Erase them all. No survivors. Astoria dropped in front of the boy without thinking, her blade slicing through the enforcer's neck in one flawless motion. The others paused, confused, then recognized her. The Slayer. "What are you doing?" shouted the squad leader. "This isn't procedure." Astoria's dagger struck his heart. The third tried to flee. She shot him between the shoulders. The fourth knelt, begging forgiveness. She spared him only because the boy sobbed louder. Creel was already running, but it didn't matter. Astoria stared at the bodies. Blood pooled under their visors. Something inside her cracked. Not the cold precision she'd been taught. Something deeper, older, like truth clawing its way out of a prison. She turned to the child, knelt beside him. "You don't have to run anymore." "Who are you?" he asked, voice trembling. She touched his cheek, then offered her hand. someone who's tired of being a weapon. Back aboard her ship, the Widowmaker, Astoria typed a single message into her encrypted transmitter. Mission failure. Target escaped. Slayer deceased. Erased. She powered down the beacon and jettisoned her syndicate insignia into the void. Astoria Pageant was dead. The Slayer was reborn, not as an assassin, but as a liberator. Chapter 3. Chains in the Void. The outer colonies had a name for Earth's ruling entity, the conglomerate, not a government, not a civilization, a corporate cartel so vast and ancient it had outlasted empires, rewritten laws, and privatized space itself. Astoria Pageant stared at the decrypted dossier glowing across her console. Each file was an indictment: satellite images of slave pits, ledgers of bribes paid to planetary governors, intercepted audio of executives joking about mortality quotas. The conglomerate didn't hide its sins. It buried them beneath layers of bureaucracy and plausible deniability. She scrolled to the final file, a map of known slave colonies, each marked in blood red. "So many," she whispered. Behind her, a voice answered, "And those are just the ones we've confirmed." Talus Vire, a rogue diplomat from the Tyrell system, stepped forward. His scales shimmered with emotion: guilt, fury, resolve. He had defected months ago, smuggling records from the conglomerate's Trade Ethics Bureau. He found Astoria and offered the data freely. "You understand what you're doing?" he said. "They'll hunt you. You'll be branded a terrorist. Every bounty hunter and mercenary in the core worlds will smell your blood." Astoria rose. "Let them come. I'll be ready." She patched the files into her ship's transmitter. One encrypted pulse, and the truth would spread across all resistance channels. But she knew information wasn't enough. People needed action, symbols, victories. She pulled up coordinates for a mining station on Kestrel 9, a hellworld of acid rain and ore vapors. Thousands worked there under the conglomerate's contract of subjugation. None had ever escaped. No one ever left alive. Her next destination. Before the transmission launched, Talus hesitated. "Once this message goes out, there's no going back." Astoria glanced at him, eyes hard. "I went back once, to save a child. Now I move forward, to save a galaxy." She hit send. From that moment, whispers spread from ship to ship, planet to planet. "The Slayer has returned. She fights for us. She brings death to tyrants and hope to the lost." But the conglomerate had ears too, and they were already sharpening their knives. Chapter 4. The Fires of Kestrel 9. Kestrel 9 was known in resistance circles as Hellion, a mining station straddling a volatile asteroid belt, cloaked in acidic storms and layered with security protocols designed by Earth's elite tacticians. No outsider had ever breached its defenses. Until today. Astoria's dropship descended through sulfuric clouds, its stealth plating crackling from the electrical turbulence. Beside her sat a tri-species strike team, Zeran gunner twins with mirror implants, a brooding insectoid tactician named Virox, and a quiet medic from the Halari tribe, the same race as the boy she once spared. "They'll be waiting for us," Virox buzzed, checking his chemical munitions. "Satellites, drones, panic triggers." Astoria slid her mask into place, the silver visor reflecting the storm outside. "Let them. But this time, we make noise." They touched down amid the outer cargo yards. Sirens sounded almost immediately. Conglomerate forces swarmed in, dozens of armored mercs, aerial sentries, rolling warbots marked with the Earth flag's jagged gear and sun emblem. Astoria moved like she was born for battle. Her dagger sang through the mist, cutting paths where bullets couldn't. The twins created hallucinations mid-firefight, disorienting targets with mirrored clones. Virox launched corrosive mist grenades, melting drone hulls and turret wires. Astoria made it to the slave compound gates within minutes. She paused. Rows of aliens were huddled behind energy fences, their shackles pulsing with biometric locks. Their eyes widened at the sight of her, not with fear, but recognition. One whispered, "Is that her?" Another cried, "The Slayer." She activated the EMP burst sewn into her glove. The gates shattered, shackles sparked and died. Silence fell. Then one voice, tiny and fragile, spoke. "Are we free?" Astoria knelt, tossing a flare skyward. It exploded in violet light, raining hope over the compound. "Yes," she said, "but the war's just beginning." The broadcast from Virox's transmitter ensured the footage would reach the outer colonies. Astoria's message was simple. Kestrel 9 has fallen. Slaves are free. We will not stop. Back aboard the Widowmaker, Astoria surveyed the liberated. Some chose to follow her. Others returned to lost homes or vowed to build new ones. Her crew had grown, a fragile band of believers, outcasts, and warriors. And somewhere deep in conglomerate space, Earth's executives issued a command. Capture the Slayer, dead or alive. But Astoria wasn't hiding. She was preparing. Chapter 5. The Fall of Ashfall. The rebel outpost on Ashfall 3 had been quiet for days, too quiet. Nestled beneath volcanic ridges, its cloaked transmitters pulsed with encrypted signals, relaying resistance victories across star systems. Dozens of freed aliens lived there in fragile hope, trained in basic defense and rebuilt purpose. Astoria had just returned from a diplomatic rendezvous with the Siren Alliance, a bird-like race reluctant to join open combat. She hoped her words had stirred them. But as her ship descended, a chill crept into her spine. No one met her on the landing pad. Smoke drifted lazily through the air, thick, metallic. She stepped out, blaster drawn. The courtyard was littered with fallen comrades, their bodies piled and burned. Symbols of the conglomerate were etched into the walls in acid scrawl. "We found your ghost. We burned it." Astoria moved fast, searching for survivors. In the main hall, she found a dying Zoran twin, Lyra, half crushed under debris. Her mirrored eye flickered weakly. "Traitor," Lyra whispered. Astoria knelt, blood rushing in her ears. "Who?" Lyra raised a trembling finger toward the terminal. Astoria accessed the logs. Someone inside the outpost had deactivated the perimeter defenses hours before the attack. A name flashed across the screen. Talis Vire, the diplomat, the data courier, the ally she trusted. Astoria froze. Rage and sorrow tangled in her chest. She'd let him into her crew, into her cause, and he'd traded lives for whatever pieces of silver the conglomerate offered. Lyra's final breath shuddered through her. "We believed in you." Astoria closed her eyes. Later, aboard the Widowmaker, she stood in silence before her crew. "We were betrayed," she said. "Ashfall has fallen." No one spoke. Then Virox stepped forward. "You want vengeance?" Astoria shook her head. "I want justice, and I want every remaining colony to know we'll die for this if we must, but we won't die quietly." A new message pulsed across rebel channels. This time it wasn't just a beacon, it was a promise. The Slayer does not mourn in silence. She rebuilds, she retaliates. Astoria marked Talis' last known location on the star chart. Elian Spire, a sky fortress orbiting Earth itself. And beneath that cold steel citadel, the next chapter of rebellion waited to burn. Chapter 6. The Gathering Storm. The barren moon of Varela was once a burial site for fallen slaves. Now it echoed with the footfalls of an army. Astoria stood atop a jagged cliff, watching as ship after ship descended. Vessels repurposed from mining barges, stolen conglomerate transports, and sleek alien cruisers, all arriving with warriors, medics, engineers, and freedom seekers. Virex's numbers scroll flickered beside her. We're past 10,000 strong. Astoria exhaled. That's not just an army. That's a lot of mouths to feed. No worries, Virox said. Many of the worlds who refuse to participate in actual battle have sent supplies. Lots of supplies. Astoria nodded, watched her gathering army. They came in waves, telepathic Corins, stone-skinned Bravari, swift-winged Siren defectors, and halogen-eyed Shari tacticians. Some bore scars of slavery, others memories of rebellion crushed, but all carried the same fire, the will to fight back. A massive makeshift encampment rose beneath them, training zones carved from obsidian, engineering tents reassembling alien tech into weapons that could melt steel. Terrell veterans drilled the newly freed in coordinated strikes and silent evasion. Every species brought their skills and their pain. One evening, Astoria walked among the troops as fires flickered blue against the starlit sky. A young Bravari soldier knelt as she passed. "You freed my family on Kestrel 9. I want my children to grow up knowing your name." She paused. "Don't kneel. Fight." They rose together. Inside the Widowmaker, Virox reported a surge in encrypted transmissions. "Rumors are spreading," he said. "They say our numbers could double within weeks." Astoria pulled up the hologram of the conglomerate's central citadel, Alliance Spire. "We'll need more than numbers," she said. "We'll need unity." So she called the first War Council of the Resistance, representatives from every allied species. Amid debates and clashing ideologies, Astoria stood and spoke. "I was once a blade used to keep you silent. Now I'm the voice that calls you to rise. We may be different, but our enemy is the same. Let's be dangerous together." The crowd erupted. Plans formed. The next targets were chosen. Slave planets, weapon caches, supply routes. Astoria looked out the viewport as transports began launching, their engines glowing like stars. They weren't just free, they were ready. Chapter 7. Storming the Spire. The skies over Idon 6 pulsed with war. Astoria stood on the bridge of the Widowmaker, staring down at the conglomerate's central communication hub, a floating citadel suspended above a planet of copper deserts and collapsed mines. This was no outpost, it was a nerve center. Taking it would blind the enemy and send a message no executive could ignore. Her generals surrounded her. Virox, Bravari commander Thorn Kellen, and Siren tactician Raelna in her ceremonial winged armor. "All forces are in formation," Raelna reported. "Ground troops await your command." Astoria nodded. "We go now. No turning back." From orbit, the assault began with a dazzling light show, plasma barrages from orbital ships, EMP cannons shorting defensive satellites, Siren air units weaving between laser arrays, then dropships deployed by the hundreds, spilling warriors onto the Citadel's landing zones. The conglomerate retaliated fast. Mechs with blade tentacle limbs emerged from hangars. Bio-enhanced mercenaries charged into the fray, some sporting neural overlays that made them immune to fear. Astoria led from the front. Her dagger nectar carved a path through steel and flesh. She fought beside soldiers who had once begged for scraps, now wielding alien blades and charging with battle cries that shook the spire itself. Inside the command tower, she located the targeting relays and the broadcast chamber. "This is where they manipulate us," Thorne said, dragging an executive from the wreckage. "Their signal poisons every colony." Astoria stared at the cameras. "Let's give the galaxy a new signal." She stepped forward, blood still on her armor, and spoke into the microphone. We stand here because we were silenced, bought, enslaved. Now we answer with unity. The spire is ours. The future is ours. Let this be your final warning. The galaxy is awake. The message went viral within minutes. Resistance movements from across star sectors synced their transmissions to hers. Earth's hold on the stars was cracking. As the rebels fortified the spire, Astoria looked up at the star map. One destination remained unchallenged: the Earth core, heavily fortified, guarded by the legendary mercenary legion, the Black Eidolons, and nestled deep inside Talis Vire, her past, her betrayal, her final reckoning. She turned to Virox. "Assemble the council. I want every sector ready." And so it began, the final scream of revolution. Chapter 8. The heart of the rebellion. The rebel command bunker beneath Varella's crystalline cliffs glowed with alien circuitry, dim violet light coursing through walls like veins. Astoria stood alone in the war chamber, staring at the looming hologram of Earth's core, an unbroken fortress protected by orbital flame rings and the dreaded mercenary order, the Black Eidolons. She clenched her fists. They were the conglomerate's elite, the ones who trained her, the ones who molded the Slayer. And now they waited for her return. Virox entered, antennae lowered. "Council's ready?" Astoria nodded and stepped into the circular chamber. Faces from every allied species flickered on screens around her. Koran minds linked via psi nodes, Bravari war chiefs wrapped in ceremonial armor, and Siren sky generals broadcasting from the twin moons of Drawl. "This war wasn't built on weapons," she said. "It was built on wounds, on pain you endured and voices they silenced." Relna hovered forward. "We stand ready, but thousands will die if we miscalculate." Astoria paced slowly. "Then we make each death mean something. We take Earth's core, we crush the Eidolons, and we tear down the conglomerate from the inside." The room buzzed with tension. Talis Vir appeared on one screen, his image distant, eyes cold. "You still trust emotion, Astoria. It's why I left you." She didn't flinch. "And it's why I'll kill you slowly." She cut off the transmission with a flick. Later, in the rebel barracks, Astoria walked among her growing army, now in the tens of thousands. Fighters tuned their blades to alien frequencies. Medics practiced field regeneration. Engineers constructed shield crawlers and built psionic amplifiers out of salvaged tech. She found herself beside Thorn Kellen and a Shari scout named Tira, watching recruits drill against holographic Eidolon illusions. Thorn muttered, "They're terrified." "And so are you." Astoria said nothing. Then Tira turned, eyes glowing softly. "That fear makes you powerful." She thought of the Halari boys she spared, the ones she lost on Ashfall, the slaves who burned under the conglomerate's cruelty. "I didn't survive fear," she whispered. "I weaponized it." The next day, they launched encrypted orders across allied systems. "Mobilize. Gather at coordinates Gamma 9. Prepare for final strike. The Slayer leads." And as the ships began their burn toward Earth, the stars seemed to lean closer, listening, watching, waiting. Chapter 9. Into the Maw. The space around Earth's core burned like a crucible. The rebel fleet exited warp near the orbital perimeter, 1,000 ships strong. The Black Eidolons waited, sleek battle cruisers cloaked in shadow, their hulls etched with the symbols of ancient mercenary orders. And aboard the flagship Wraithhammer, the one who trained her, Master Idra Vel. Astoria stood at the command deck of the Widowmaker, the bones of her past vibrating in her chest. She remembered Idra's cold voice, the surgical lessons in dismemberment, the nights she cried and no one heard. Now Idra would hear her scream. The assault began in silence. Jammers cut conglomerate signals. Siren squadrons dove from above, slicing enemy formations with synchronized sweeps. Psionic shockwaves burst across flanks. Rebel drones swarmed capital cannons and blinded Eidolon optics. Astoria's forces moved like vengeance incarnate. She led the first boarding team into Wraithhammer itself, carving through corridors of zero-G with her dagger gleaming. One by one, Eidolons fell. Their tactics were flawless, their training decades old. But they weren't ready for chaos. They weren't ready for her. Astoria reached the bridge where Idra waited, adorned in ceremonial armor, a crimson blade in each hand. "You returned," Idra said calmly. "I never left," Astoria replied. Their fight was seismic, dagger against dagger, memory against memory. Idra whispered cruel truths as they clashed. "You were born to serve. Love makes you weak. You'll die knowing you could have ruled." Astoria answered with silence and a blade to the heart. Idra collapsed. The bridge alarms flickered. The Wraith hammer destabilized. Astoria escaped seconds before it ruptured in a blaze visible from the moon. The fleet cheered. Signals across star systems lit up. Eidolons defeated. Earth's core vulnerable. Final march begins. The Slayer is coming. Astoria returned to the command deck, blood-spattered and breathless. Virox asked, "Was it worth it?" She stared out at Earth, so pristine, so cruel. "We're not finished." Chapter 10. The Fall of Tyrants. Earth hung before them, blue, radiant, indifferent. The rebel armada circled its orbit like a halo of fury, tens of thousands strong. Every liberated species stood poised for justice. At the center of it all, on the bridge of the Widowmaker, Astoria Pageant locked eyes with the planet that made her a weapon, and prepared to unmake its throne. "The defense grid is active," Relna reported. "Orbital firewalls, drone swarms, thermal missiles. They're throwing everything." Astoria nodded. "Then we throw everything back." The assault tore through the stratosphere in coordinated waves. Siren air fleets dodged heat-seeking blasts. Bravari juggernauts crashed into orbital stations. Koran telepaths disrupted conglomerate systems' mind code. Every rebel cell across the galaxy had come for this moment. Astoria's personal strike team landed on the surface just miles from the conglomerate's citadel, a glistening tower of steel, surrounded by oceans of surveillance drones and self-piloted warcraft. Inside that tower, Talis Vire and the last remaining executives who orchestrated decades of slavery and manipulation. The ground offensive met brutal resistance. Black Eidolon remnants emerged with acid blades and memory grenades, devices that hijacked pain and replayed trauma mid-combat. Astoria pushed through anyway. Her dagger sang. Her soul screamed. Each step was agony and purpose woven together. She lost half her team before reaching the Citadel gates. But then, they opened. Talis stood alone. No weapon, just a smirk. "You win," he said, "but you don't know what comes next." Astoria stepped forward, blade trembling. "Peace," he laughed. "You built an army on revenge. You'll fracture. Just give it time." Astoria hesitated. Then she lowered her blade. "We're not perfect, but we're free." She signaled her remaining crew. They didn't immediately execute Talis. They broadcast his confession. All of it. Then she let her blade nectar kiss his cheek and watched him die in writhing agony. The conglomerate fractured within days. Executives fled. Slave codes were dismantled. Colonies signed mutual protection treaties. Earth itself became a democratic haven, not through conquest, but exposure. Astoria stood before a galaxy forever changed. Ralna approached one night under the twin moons of Drawl. You never told us what you'd do after. Astoria smiled faintly. Disappear. And she did. Some say she vanished into the outer systems. Others swear she still fights in silence, dismantling smaller tyrannies. But across the stars, children speak her name with reverence. Soldiers tattoo her symbol, a violet flare against black skies. And the galaxy, it breathes, broken and reborn. Epilogue. Whispers. Years passed. The conglomerate's empires scattered like ash in solar wind. Astoria Pageant had not been seen since the fall of Earth's core, her name spoken only in reverent hush across the outer colonies. In the marketplace of Zelros Prime, children traced violet flares into the dust with sticks. On Coran moons, lullabies spoke of a golden warrior who walked among stars. In Bravari temples, her likeness adorned alabaster walls, not as a killer, but as a liberator. No statue bore her face, no government claimed her allegiance. And still, her work continued. Miners on uncharted asteroids found strange messages embedded in fractured ore. Live unshackled, speak boldly. Fallen mercenaries whispered in dying breaths, the Slayer lives. Rebels across galaxies reported coordinated strikes, each bearing her old signature, precision, poison, and justice. Some believed she became part of the stars, encoded into the frequencies of rebellion itself. Others said she waits, blade clean, soul heavy, for the next darkness. But one truth remained. Where tyranny dared to rise, so did her legend. And in the quiet between systems, in the pulse of transmission towers long dormant, her final message echoed still. We were broken, we rose, and we will rise again. The end.